Can you hear me now? Good morning. Thank you for being here on Saturday on your day of rest. As educators, our jobs never really end. You, we, us, are all vehicles of information with different skills, talents, and paths. Our engines never really stop running. And as advocates, the struggle to be heard and understood is the challenge that we dream of overcoming, and the challenge, I think, that unites us, right? We are excited to have that one person listen to us, right, when we're out there talking and doing outreach and community building. In the next 45 minutes, we will discuss deferred action for childhood arrivals, DACA, and demystify the process, clear up some misinformation, and talk about the educator's role with regard to DACA and the community in general. There are two crucial issues behind this very important movement. First, it's the lack of information. In other words, as you were saying earlier, the lack of access to information. And really, it's the lack of access to legal information, the correct information. The second crucial issue is the lack of outreach in marginalized communities, and specifically the lack of outreach in a language that they understand, whether that's Spanish, Korean, Mandarin. Is also very difficult to find volunteers to go out there and do the work of the free legal clinics. These issues affect not only Dreamers and DACA eligible students, it also affects all students, U.S. born citizens students as well, and I will explain in a moment how that occurs. A lack of information and outreach are the first two hurdles our students face. The third hurdle, which was touched upon earlier, which I think is often ignored and really misunderstood, is the lack of mentorship for our students to help them navigate the educational system and programs like DACA. I believe that this factor makes all the difference in a student's path to higher education, having that mentor, that person to hold your hand and give you free information, right? That source of knowledge of how do I become an engineer? What major should I really, apply for? Especially when you have limited resources and funding, especially when you are the first generation in your family and tuition costs keep growing, and maybe you don't have 5 years. Maybe you're trying to do it in 3 years because you're financially strapped. So mentors are very crucial, I think, in this whole program. All of you should have, and Yael, start passing out, a red folder. They're going to start being passed out. And inside the folder, you're going to have flyers, some immigration documents, and a self-help filing guide, and some financial aid information. Some of you, when you're opening up the guide, you'll actually have different flyers next to your neighbor. Okay, you're not going to have the same information. And some of you may not have a folder at all, and I did this intentionally. Why? Why do you think I did this? Why don't all of you have a folder? It's not because I'm being mean. Why do you think? Anyone? I'm going to pick on you. Socratic method, like law school. Ready? In the class, the glasses. Why do you think not all of them? All of us here have.
Are going to be undocumented during this workshop.
Getting closer, yes. Why? Why do you think?
Not everyone has equal access to information.
Yes. What's your name?
Thomas.
Thomas. full access to this information. So open up your folders. Okay, and you're going to see some of you start pulling out on the, I think on the left-hand side. Pull out. Some of you might have a 765 WS. Some of you might have the complete application. Some of you might have a page missing or so. Okay? But you're going to have to start talking to your neighbors. And I did this because when we're out there in the community, not everybody gets the same information, right? And it's usually word of mouth, correct? And so someone will say, well, I heard that if you were here 3 years ago, or 15, you can apply. Is that true? Is that true? Is it true that if you have DACA, then you can go off anywhere in the country once you're approved? Maybe? We just had a student, Harvard student, had to go visit their sick mother. Have you heard? And was not admitted back. So it's very, very, very sensitive. I will answer questions after. It's a very, very sensitive program. It's a very generous program, but you have to play by the rules. Okay? So specifically for purposes of DACA, there is a lack of access to legal resources, legal advocates, attorneys, and law students, law clerks, volunteers. Most of you have a self-help guide in your booklets. These guides are essentially a DIY, do-it-yourself help guide, and we will go through it together, and you will be able to write notes because I will give you more information in detail. And a lot of the information and lack thereof is misguided and misinformed due to really the nature of the policy and the program. And why? It's because it's the manner that DACA is being applied. It's very new, okay? And it's very specific to a very specific demographic, okay? And a very specific demographic is benefiting more than other demographics. And I'm going to give you some numbers and stats. So to really understand DACA, you have to understand what deferred action is and what deferred action has meant in this country historically. First, prior to DACA, there was very little deferred action that was being granted. To give you an example in numbers, because I love numbers, I'm a physics major, so I really, really love numbers. You're going to hear a lot of numbers. So they were granting it in the hundreds. Hundreds. Okay, remember that. Hundreds. Very, very rare that they would grant deferred action. And generally, they were only granting deferred action to people who had lawful status. Remember those two words, lawful status. Okay, so that meant if you were an LPR, okay, legal permanent resident, if you had asylum, maybe you would get rare, but maybe they would give you deferred action if you had lawful status. So deferred action in those rare circumstances was basically given to lawful legal residents residing in the U.S. Why DACA is a very generous program is because to date, as of October 2014, more than 610,000 have been accepted. Accepted and approved are two different words that mean two different things for DACA. Okay, so 610,000 have been accepted. That's a lot to hundreds, correct? Hundreds to 610,000. Do you see why this is a very generous program? This is why it's also a very generous program. Because employment authorization was automatically given. That's very rare that they do that, okay? And What you're paying for, the $380, is for the I-765. You always have to pay that. DACA I-821D is free. Okay, but there's a lot of misinformation out there that you have to pay for the application. There's something called notario fraud in our community. Notario is a Spanish word that means, in our home country, Latin America, a lawyer or someone who has studied law for more than 6 years. It's almost equivalent to a judge. Okay, so our community is being misguided, misinformed, taken advantage of, exploited by using this word notario. And I know you see them all around here, right? Notario, tax services, immigration, DUI, we do it all. Real estate, we'll do your mortgage, correct? Have you seen that? One-stop shop? Okay. That's why everyone's confused. It's not that they're just going there because it's cheaper or more convenient. It's because they really think that this is an attorney, a judge, that's helping them. So we need to also explain that to our community whenever we have the opportunity to do so. The other reason why this is a very generous program is because DACA is very disproportionately benefiting Latinos and Latinas, and very specifically Mexico. I'm going to give you some numbers. Out of the 610,000 accepted applications, 467,982 are from Mexico, 23,074 are from El Salvador, 15,574 are from Honduras, 15,531 are from Guatemala, 7,745 are from Peru, 7,741 are from South Korea. Very difficult to find translators that speak Korean. Very difficult to find attorneys that are fluent in Korean. Very difficult to find attorneys that are bilingual, even if they have a Latino last name. Many of my colleagues, Martinez, Estrada, and do not speak a word of Spanish. So they want to come out to my clinic and help, but very difficult because they cannot communicate with my clients, and then I don't have enough volunteers to come and translate in other languages, right? And to be very patient and to understand how to speak and communicate with documented, illegible youth and their parents. So, out of the 610,694 total applications, approved are 521,815. Okay, approved. Granted, they have DACA. Denied, 15,968. Denied. You're not getting it. Okay? Rejected, 27,360. Why we're getting rejected or denied is really for clerical errors, very minor errors. So if you open up your folders, you see how some of you maybe are lacking maybe the I-765WS. Maybe you forgot to sign a part. Maybe on the I-765 you put C3 as a category instead of C33. If you can see on who has the I-765 in your package share, you're all going to have to talk to each other, unfortunately, and make new friends today. Okay? But this is how it happens, word of mouth. Start sharing. Start talking. Come on, start around. I'm going to give you a few minutes. Okay? When you have share information, what would you do if you had to apply?
Which form are we looking at?
I-765. That's the employment authorization. Who has it? Oh, we have one over there who has it. Okay, so can you find the area where you would have to write the category C33? Which number that is? Have we found it? Yes? No? Have any of you, is this the first time you've seen an I-765? Many? How many me this is the first time. Oh, wow. I'm so happy. I get to introduce this to you. How exciting. Okay, so we're going to go through it. I'm going to teach you how to go through this application and read it. That way you're very, very well informed by the time you leave and you can pass on the correct information. Okay? Now, if you pull up your self-help filing guide, this one, this is for all of you to carry around so you can answer questions. Okay? Always keep it with you. So it's basically in the order that I get questions the most, like email, phone calls, it's in that order. And what do you see as the first one? Where do I send my DACA? Right? Very simple, but people are sending it to the wrong places, or they're sending it express, and as you can see, 2 different addresses, if you're going to send it express mail or regular mail, and they're very, see, right over here on the P sheet, right? You didn't know that, right? See? You sent to the wrong one, and then they would get rejected, and then guess what? You have to pay $465 again. Again, I cannot file a motion to reopen. I cannot appeal. You have to go through the whole process again. Okay? There's nothing that anyone can do. Okay? There is no motion to reopen. There is no appeal process. And so that's a big misconception that people are taking advantage of, saying, oh, you were denied? Okay. Give me $1,000 and I'll file a motion to reopen for you and appeal it. No, that's a lie. Okay? They can't do that. You're just going to have to reapply all over again. Okay? Now, the I-765-WS is new and very special to DACA only. You have to establish economic necessity. Okay? So you have to explain why you need this work permit in that paragraph. Other categories seeking employment authorization do not need this extra form. Only DACA needs this extra form. Okay? WS, it has to go with it. The second page to the self-help guide is how do I assemble it? And what forms do I really need? Okay, so the forms are there listed for you. The only one, and you want to make note of, the only one that you really don't need, you don't have to have it, is the G1145. Okay, so that one is optional. That one is so that they can text you, email you, that they receive the application and give you status of when your appointment for biometrics is going to be, whether you're approved, denied, or you're going to get an RSE. An RSE is a request for further evidence. And no one should be scared if you get one of those letters, an RSE, request for evidence. It just means that they need more documents, and usually you will get a letter and they will list it. Maybe you need more documents for continuous residence. Maybe they need a copy of your transcript that you forgot to include, okay? But you have to answer within the deadline. Okay, so it's very, very important. If you do not answer within that deadline, goodbye applications start all over again, pay all over again, okay? Supporting documents. I didn't include that here because I get really creative with my document evidence for some of my clients that maybe dropped out of high school and don't have a full transcript, started working very, early, and so we have to supplement in other ways, or maybe they took some time off high school to help their family work. So there's many ways to go about it, but on the USCIS website, they have a fabulous list of all the documents that you can use. Okay, so I highly suggest that you visit that. And always have a cover letter, just explaining, making it easy for the file clerk that's reviewing the application, that they know 1, 2, 3, this is what is in here, because you have to put yourself in their shoes. They have how many? Thousands and thousands of applications, and looking at at those immigration forms, it's very detailed, so you just really want to make it very extra easy for them, like label everything, tab it, so that they're just flipping through it and checking off. Yes, they have this, yes, they have the transcript, you know, just put yourself in their shoes. They don't want to start rifling and looking for the transcripts and were they here on June 5th, right? I mean, that's just going to aggravate me, and then I get into, you know, bad energy state, and then maybe I don't have my coffee in front of me, and oh my gosh, denied. Really, okay? So just make it very easy for them. And so I included a sample cover letter, so you can just type it up, copy it, add your name where the X's are. That's not your number, that is not your email address either, okay? Just cut and paste that. That's it, very easy. What happens after I send my DACA? What happens? Does anyone know what happens? Anyone? No? What?
Email notification.
Email, yes. And then what are you waiting for? You're waiting for your biometrics appointment. Your fingerprint, okay? You have to go to that appointment. If you do not go to that appointment, what happens? Start all over, that's right. Rejected, okay? You've abandoned, it's considered abandoning your application, okay? You don't want to do that. You can reschedule, but you need to call within the deadline and reschedule it, but really just go to the assigned appointment date unless, you know, it's an emergency. Now, what is deferred action exactly? It's a discretionary determination to defer removal action of an individual as an act of prosecutorial discretion. Lawful status. This is a big issue that's being litigated now, especially in South Carolina and Georgia. Lawful status, whether DACA provides lawful status, it does not provide lawful status. In addition, although an individual's case is deferred, will not be considered to be accruing unlawful presence in the United States during the period of deferred action. Deferred action does not excuse individuals of any previous or subsequent periods of unlawful presence. So the minute you apply for DACA, and let's say you're driving with a suspended license, they take you in, you cannot be deported while your DACA application is pending, okay? While it's waiting, you don't have anything, you haven't received your biometrics appointment, you're still waiting for either an RFP, a denial, and approval, you cannot be deported, okay? We all understand that? Yeah? Very, very, very important, because I have some clients that have gone in and then I have to go all those again and explain, no, they're pending DACA. Give me my kids back now. Right? Okay? So, we all know that, please. So when did this all happen? It's very recent, right? When did this occur? 2 years ago? June 15, 2012? Important date for us? 2 years ago. And in those 2 years, there are a lot of pockets in LA that doesn't have the information. They don't know anything about DACA. They don't know it exists. How can that be? How can that be? How can that be?
They're not as sports. They don't have as much need, or maybe they don't have presence of nonprofit organizations or student groups that disseminate the information.
Right. And this is really a student-led movement. UCLA is ground zero for this movement. And you're right. There's a lack of nonprofits. Nonprofits lack funding. It's very difficult to get funding for nonprofits to do DACA work. And very difficult to recruit volunteers to come and do it out for free, right? So we really depend on all of you in the community, educators. Really, you have access to the students so much more than we do. You see them on a daily basis. You have access to their parents, their families, and you're the first person that they might open up to and trust if you're willing to be that person. And it's a wonderful experience when you're able to help someone and guide them and hold their hand. It's a wonderful feeling. So I highly suggest that you all take on some mentorship and hold, it's just one person's hand in this process. It will be life-changing for you and for them. So I want to talk about the requirements very quickly. And you're going to be writing some notes, so open up your book. Get your pens out. So DACA requirements. You may request consideration of deferred action if you meet all of the following, okay? So you're going to write little notes, like extra notes on your self-help guide. You were under the age of 31 as of June 15, 2012, right? Simple. You came to the United States before reaching your 16th birthday. Before reaching your 16th birthday. You have continuously resided. So this one always gets an RFE, usually. This is the one where people don't usually submit enough documentation. This is why it's so important that if you're in junior high or high school, that you take advantage of it now, because it's so easy. All you need is your transcripts to establish the continuous residence. And I know that LAUSD is giving out, the letter that will document, your enrollment history, if you've been moving from like Bakersfield to LAUSD, etc. But so much easier when you're in high school and already enrolled and 15 and hit that mark and you can apply. So easy. You can do it with the self-help guide. Just take your transcripts and send it off. Continuous residence. We're going to talk about that in detail. Okay, so circle or highlight that part because I'm going to give you some exceptions to that. You must have been physically present in the United States on June 15, 2012. Physically present. Very difficult. Do you see that date? Where are my teachers? June 15th. What's going on June 15th during that time?
Summer.
You're what? Out of school. Summer. Right. So how are they going to show that they were here? How are they going to show if you weren't in school? How are they going to show if you're 29 and you've been out of school for so long? Or, right? 2 years ago, I don't remember where I was. Right? So, easier if you're in high school because they have an understanding that you are in summer break and they understand how the school system works. So, all we have to say is that you are on vacation, provide like a school calendar printout, which is available online, and that's it. Just showing, or the transcript will show that you were on break. You must have entered EWI is what we're going to put on there. EWI without inspection, okay? Entered without inspection on June 15th, or your lawful immigration status expired as of June 15, 2012. You must have entered without inspection, or you didn't have any lawful immigration status. You are currently in school, graduated, or obtained a GED. Currently in school. If you're not, if you dropped out, go back and enroll yourself in a GED program. Now you have established that element, right? You have a printout that you have enrolled. Now you are currently in school. If you are an honorably discharged veteran of the Coast Guard or Armed Forces, and you have not been convicted of a felony, a significant misdemeanor, which has a new definition for DACA, or a non-significant misdemeanor, which this part has a lot of misinformation, so we're going to go into that in detail, the criminal bars to DACA, okay? So, continuous residence and travel guidelines. confuse everyone. There's a great chart on the USCIS website that will break it down for you, but the most important part to know is that if your student did leave, or if you left for a maximum of 6 months, so if your grandmother was sick, or father, or mother, they had to go back for some emergency to visit a dying relative, it will be excused up to 6 months. You will not break the chain of continuous residence. So that has also been, really, I think, misguided information because, oh, no, I left for 3 months, I don't qualify, not even going to try. No, you do. You just have to explain. And you have to be honest in your application. Brings me to my next point. Don't lie. Don't lie on the application. There's just no reason to. Okay, I have, especially my younger students, I will usually meet and screen with them a few times and then try and get their parents because they usually will not want to admit to me that they have some kind of juvenile record or something that happened that they have some type of doubt about. You kind of have to get it out of them and coach them and get them to really trust you to explain everything that's happened because sometimes they don't even really understand that maybe they just got, traffic violations, that they think it's something larger and greater that prevents them from applying and it's really not. And just so you know, traffic violations are not going to be considered, okay, as part of the non-significant misdemeanor or misdemeanor. Okay, so if you were caught driving with a suspended license, like a lot of my kids are because they have to get to school or run errands and get places and they get stopped, that's going to be okay. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the continuous resident and exactly, I'm going to give you some language because this is the area where we have a lot of problems. Are you ready to write? Okay, so the question is always, do brief departures from the United States interrupt the continuous residence requirement? Okay, so this is the language that we're going to use when we're writing, okay, our exception little paragraph. A brief, casual, and innocent absence from the United States. And this is, I guess, being streamed or YouTubed or whatever, so you can pause and write it down. A brief, casual, and innocent absence from the United States will not interrupt your continuous residence if you were absent from the U.S. for any period of time. Your absence will be considered brief. So these are the words I want you to use. Brief, casual, and innocent. Brief, casual, and innocent. If it was before August 15, 2012, and, okay, so if you remember anything, brief, casual, and innocent, and it has to be before August 15, 2012. And, I'm going to give you 4 points now, okay? And, 1, the absence was short and reasonably calculated to accomplish the purpose of the absence. One more time. The absence was short and reasonably calculated to accomplish the purpose for the absence. The absence was not because of an order of exclusion, deportation, or removal. In other words, you weren't leaving because they deported you, right? Okay, you didn't leave for 3 months and then come back. 3, the absence was not because of an order of voluntary departure or an administrative grant of voluntary departure before you were placed in exclusion, deportation, or removal proceedings. Okay? One more time, the absence was not because of an order of voluntary departure or an administrative grant of voluntary departure. And so you have to meet all 4. The purpose of the absence and or your actions while outside the United States were not contrary to law. So you didn't leave the country, the U.S., to go commit illegal crimes. in another country, okay? Pretty easy, right? Okay? May I travel, the second thing that I always get, and this is my Harvard student, may I travel outside the United States before USCIS has determined whether to defer action in my case? So if it's pending, if your DACA is pending, can you leave? No, you should all be jumping right now. No, you cannot. You cannot leave, okay? You have to ask permission. You have to go through another process. After you've been approved by DACA, then you have to apply, okay, for permission from USCIS. They will send you a letter saying you are approved, you can leave. You need that to come back in. If not, they're not going to let you back in, okay? So you have to apply. After you get your approval, you have your approved 821, then you go back online and you print out the permission forms, okay? Apply, then you can leave, then you can travel, then you can study abroad, okay? So, what else do I want to tell you about travel? Is my time is up?
That's just travel outside of the country.
Yes, good question. Travel outside of the United States. Yes, you can go to New York, Montana. I don't know if you want to go to Montana. But yes, you can go anywhere in the United States. Okay? But travel, go.
Even like Alaska and Hawaii?
Yes, you can. Not outside of the United territory. Okay. I'm running out of time. Criminal bar is the most important part. Okay, ready? What is a felony? And why this is so important, so interesting to me, is because all of a sudden, our criminal laws changed for DACA specifically. Isn't that nice of them? So we have all these different definitions of criminal law, more work for us to remember. So now, felony for DACA means a federal, state, or local criminal offense, punishable by imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year. Exceeding more than 1 year. Okay. What offenses constitute a significant misdemeanor? Okay, so for the purposes of DACA, and only DACA, not your family petitions, not your visas, not your VAWAs, just for DACA, a significant misdemeanor is one defined by federal law, which has a maximum term of imprisonment authorized for 1 year or less. 1 year or less, but more than 5 days. 1 year or less, but more than 5 days. Significant misdemeanor. Less than 1 year, more than 5 days. Okay? So if you Google whatever violation, your ticket says, it'll spell out in a long section that you're reading. If it's more than 5 days, like specifically, it'll say punishable by imprisonment for more than 5 days. Okay? Regardless of the sentence imposed, regardless of your sentences, the following offenses, so write these down, the following offenses, significant misdemeanor. It is, these following ones are considered moral turpitude, okay? Character, your moral character, which is very important when you want to gain citizenship in the United States and you're naturalizing it. Okay, your moral character is very important. So these crimes are specifically attached to your moral character. And they, even if you are an LPR, whatever happens in the future, if these offenses are on your criminal record, the following ones that I'm going to list, you may not be able to become a citizenship ever. So you can be here LPR status, you could be here on DPS, on TPS, but you will not become a citizen. Okay, so I'm going to list them right now. The first one, domestic violence. Second, sexual abuse or exploitation. Third, burglary. Fourth, unlawful possession or use of a firearm. Drug distribution or trafficking. Driving under the influence, DUI. Okay? If not an offense that I just listed, and is one for which the individual was sentenced to time in custody of more than 90 days in custody. The sentence must involve time to be served in custody and therefore does not include a suspended sentence. Okay, so when you get your criminal report, your docket from court, it will list exactly what the felony was, the violation, what your sentence was, and whether it was dismissed or suspended. Okay? The time in custody does not include any time served beyond the sentence. Okay? Now, non-significant. These are the tricky ones. Non-significant misdemeanors. So this we see a lot of, okay, the misdemeanors. So for purposes of DACA, again, non-significant misdemeanor is any misdemeanor defined by federal law, not state, federal, by a term of imprisonment authorized 1 year or less but greater than 5. And, so remember, very similar to significant, so the non-significant, 1 year or less, greater than 5, and is not an offense of domestic violence, the ones I listed, domestic violence, sexual abuse, exploitation, burglary, unlawful possession, drug distribution, trafficking, or DUIs, and is one for which the individual was sentenced to time in custody 90 days or less. Okay? The time in custody does not include any time served beyond the sentence for the criminal offense on a state or local agency honoring a detainer issued by ICE. Just have that in your head, and then say you need to go talk to an attorney and their benefit and public counsel if you get to that point with anybody, okay? Minor traffic offenses, so these are the ones that you're probably going to get approached a lot of, so these minor, like driving with a suspended license. These are going to be considered non-significant, but if you pay the fine, then you're going to be okay. Okay? Now, my last most common question: can I apply for DACA if I have a U visa pending? What's the answer? I think we've answered that already, right? But what? Can we? Yes. Okay, so I get that a lot. And why? Do any of you know what U visa is? Just no? Yes? How many know what a U visa is? Raise your hands. So no. Okay. So a U visa are for those undocumented persons that have been a victim of a crime. Okay? And so, if you have been a victim of a crime in your home country or here, and you file a police report, and it is one of the crimes, there's a list of violations. The most common is aggravated assault, which is domestic violence, which happens a lot. You qualify for a U visa. And what's wonderful about the U visa program is that the difference between U visa and DACA is that U visa, you can petition for your children and your spouse. So if you were attacked, raped, burglarized, you file the report, you get a copy of the report, you file a U visa petition, which is down the street. Public counsel, many nonprofit organizations will help you fill that process out, the forms, and apply and ask for U visa for your children or spouse, okay? And you can apply for DACA while that's pending. And can I request consideration of deferred action for child arrivals under this process if I am currently in a non-immigrant status, in other words, F1, which is the fiancé visa, E2, which are employment, and H4s, or have TPS? TPS? No, you cannot apply. Okay, so just write those down. F-1, the fiancé visa, E2, H4, and TPS, you cannot apply for DACA. Okay? Did you all get that? Yes? Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is something that's very dear to me, and I really just came across this past summer. I was teaching one of my students at UCLA, and I realized that when it comes to community building, I think a lot of us are a little bit at a loss about how to do that and how to do outreach sometimes. And I'm going to read you an essay. How much time do I have? I'm going to get a ticket outside. Can someone run and put a quarter in my car so I don't get a ticket? Sorry. Thank you. So I'm going to read you an essay from my student, UCLA student. Memories of people being with me during times when I've needed help and support tend to overwhelm the memories of being alone. Some people at institutions try to tell us that our accomplishments solely exist because of our hard work and because we were able to overcome barriers and fight for what we have. This devalues and erases the bonds that have been the strength and the kind words and shoulders that we have leaned on to keep going when we were not sure if we could. I'm very emotional. We are definitely strong people who have been met with aspects of our life that have tried to beat us down, but we haven't lived in a vacuum or grown up in a single-player game. When I went to elementary school, it was my mom who walked me to school. When I was having trouble with math in 3rd grade, my neighbor tutored me for free. When I needed to move in somewhere in 11th grade because we lost our apartment, my friend and her mom took me in. When I was panicking because I needed help with my college application. My students are very dear to me. When I was panicking for my college application a few weeks before it was due, my friend got me through it. When I was finally able to move out of my home in my 2nd year of college after having a panic attack and not being able to stand the dorms anymore, my friend drove me and my belongings to my dorm. However, as much as I have wanted to be independent and cut myself off from people, I know that I would come to a standstill very quickly if I had no one around me. That's my answer for how I made it to college. And that was the question posed for their essays. How did you get to college? What was your path? And that simple question really turned my summer around because my students wrote essays that in all of my years of educating, they never opened up this way until I touched upon DACA and immigration. And I have so many essays and I'm sharing them with you because I feel that it is my duty. It overwhelmed me to hear all of these stories, how much they confided in me. And because they confided in me so much, I'm sharing this essay with you. So there's a couple more pages that I'm trying to get through. And so these will be available on a blog so that your students can go on and read them and they can be inspired the way that they have inspired me. So I'm going to continue. That's my answer for how I made it to college. I have been diligent with my work. I have put my health and well-being on the line to make ends meet and make it through without everything falling apart. But everything that I have done also belongs to those who have always been with me and those who have come in and out of my life in short bursts. I have had help in tangible ways. Free running shoes from my coach. That's you, my teachers out there. Meals from my friends and the apartments of friends that have become sanctuaries. And I have had help in ways that are forever etched into my thoughts and are part of how I now view the world. Late night phone calls for support, words of encouragement, conversations that made me realize my worth, which I have discovered is a very big issue with young ladies in college. Their confidence and their self-esteem, their value and self-worth. They think that they are not good enough to apply for medical school or law school or engineering when they are at high, wonderful institutions like UCLA and Harvard. Every person who has helped me get through life has also contributed to getting me to college. If I didn't have the support or people in my life, I would not be in the same place that I am now. If I go further back, I am here because of the love and decisions of my grandparents and those before me. I have come to understand that we can't overlook everything our families do that hurt us, and sometimes we have to cut ties for us to protect ourselves, but I am also trying really hard to keep up these ties. They are also why I am here. My grandpa is from Chihuahua, Mexico, and moved to El Paso, Texas, where he met my grandma and later moved to Echo Park with his 4 children. Him and my step-grandmother raised my mom, aunt, and uncle. I also grew up with some of my cousins who influenced my development. And I'm also here studying these subjects because of my family and because of my love for them and people and the earth. Understanding systematic oppression that has affected my family's health, that has manifested itself through cancer and diabetes, is why I'm taking courses that expose me to how food and environmental systems work and how racism and redlining have played roles in environmental racism that affect the communities that I live in. How could I not share that with you, right? How could I keep that to myself and just grade it and move on? How? I have to share it, right? And I have like 50 other ones, and I have to. And I sit at night, and I'm like crying by myself, like, oh my gosh. I have to. And I'm not like tech savvy, I'm not a blogger, I don't even know what that is. I was like, you guys are gonna make a blog, and I'm gonna edit them, and we're gonna upload them and share them with the world, because they're absolutely beautiful stories that are not told. And I encourage all of you to visit the blog that's in there when they're all up there. We also did a wonderful project I had them do is guides, how-to guides. Back to my issue on mentorship. Mentorship is really how-to, right? Holding hands. And so what they did was, this is one of 15. Here's how to get to college. This is about 50 pages thick. It's everything you need to know from A to Z on how to apply. SATs, ACTs, the difference, AB 540, Teen Pregnancy Resource Centers, everything. And then this will be translated into Spanish, Korean, and other languages and available on the blog. Okay? And I hope that you all really take advantage. It is my hope and my dream that all teachers will have this and will be able to sit with parents and give them a copy in Spanish, and they will be able to mentor their own children, and their children will not have to wait around for others and community members, right? This should be a fun thing for moms and dads to do with their children, because now they have the knowledge and we're empowering the parents. And as such, we're empowering our community and building community and networking, right? And so these will start from early education from the age of 3 all the way to law school, medical school, engineering, step by step. Classes, courses, majors, geography, women's studies, Chicano studies, and what to do after, what jobs, how much they pay. Okay? You like that? Yes? Are you excited? Yes! Okay, awesome. Well, I hope that you've learned a little bit more about DACA. I hope you're a little bit more inspired. To inspire means to breathe life. At our best, we are all educators, and I think I just want to leave you with some words by one of my favorite people ever. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Okay? Thank you for your